In this chapter, we will have a look at the process of human reproduction. That is, how do exactly human beings produce their offspring? What is basically reproduction? We are learning this word since the very lower standards. Can you recall what do we understand by this process? As we have seen in lower standards, reproduction means re plus production. So basically, it is the process of producing once again. What is reproduced? The offspring from the parents. So reproduction is nothing but the ability of living organisms to produce a new generation of living organisms. These living organisms are similar to each other, right? So the process of producing similar living organisms is called reproduction. Reproduction is basically aimed at increasing the population and the perpetuation of the species. As we know, in absence of this process, each organism will get extinct and each species will get extinct if there is no process of reproduction for the perpetuation of the species. Human beings produce sexually and are viviparous. Now what do we understand by these terms? We already know that reproduction is of two types, sexual and asexual. Human beings reproduce sexually and they are viviparous organisms. This means that they give birth to young ones. Other type of organisms are oviparous. Oviparous organisms lay eggs and hatch them, and they then give birth to young ones that arise from these eggs. The reproductive units in living organisms comprise of special cells, and these are called the gametes. So the unit of reproduction in human beings are gametes. We know that every living organism exhibits certain developmental periods. These developmental events are more marked in higher and sexually reproducing multicellular organisms. The first one is the embryonic period. The embryonic developmental period includes the event from the time of fertilization of the ovum by the sperm to the time of birth of a new offspring. So the embryonic period is nothing but the period that a young one spends in his mother's womb. And the second one is the post-embryonic period. As the name itself suggests, it continues development after the embryonic period. At the post-embryonic period, the young ones after birth develop, grow and attain various developmental changes. These constitute the post-embryonic period. The embryonic period can be attached to the developing brain, developing face and neck, the heart bulge. Can we see the heart bulge? Yes, this is the heart bulge. Then there is the liver bulge. There is a bud for the upper limb development and the lower limb development. These developmental events of an animal constitute from the zygote to the blastose to the adult, and they ultimately form the life history or ontogeny. So what is ontogeny? Please write down in your notebooks. The developmental events of an animal from zygote to blastose to the adult constitute the life history or the ontogeny. The study of this process involves certain orderly changes in the structure and the physiology of the organism. This change in the structure and physiology of the organism during the entire life, that means from zygote to death. I repeat, from zygote to death is called the developmental biology. What is it? The developmental biology. As we can see in the image, there is a fertilized egg and a fully grown fetus of 20 weeks. This entire period, from the fertilized egg to the fully grown fetus, is the embryonic period. After this, the offsprings come out of the mother's womb and exhibit the post-embryonic development. Let us have a look at the phases of embryonic development. The first phase is the phase of gametogenesis. This phase includes the formation of gametes. The next one is the process of fertilization, where the union of the male and the female gametes take place. The union of male and female gametes form a zygote. This is also termed as conception. Then comes the period of gestation. During this period, developmental events are seen from conception to the birth of young ones. I repeat, the developmental events from conception to the birth of young ones includes the process or the period of gestation. It includes certain processes like cleavage, gastrulation and organogenesis that we will see further in this chapter. And the fourth one is the period of parturition. This is nothing but giving birth to a fully developed young one. Right? Clear? Let us now start with the human reproductive system after a brief round of explanation and introduction. We all know that man is a unisexual animal. It also reveals certain and distinct sexual dimorphism. Now, what do we understand by sexual dimorphism? Sexual dimorphism means that the male and the female are separate. We know that there are certain visible and striking differences between the males and the females. These include the physical standards, external genital organs, and the accessory sex characters. The reproduction of each of these sex has many organs. These form the reproductive organs. They include the primary, secondary, and the accessory sexual reproductive organs. So we have the male primary, male secondary, and male accessory sex organs, as well as the female primary, female secondary, and female accessory sex organs. Let us have a look at the primary sex organs first. The another name for primary sex organs is gonads. Gonads form the sex cells or the gametes. The growth, maintenance and functions of gonads or gametes is regularized by a hormone. This is called the follicular stimulating hormone and the luteinizing hormone. The male gonads are termed testes and their gametes are called spermatozoa or sperms. Female gonads are ovaries and their gametes are called ova or egg. So the gonads give rise to gametes. The male gonad, that is testis, forms the sperms and the female gonads, that are ovaries, form the egg. Then we have the secondary sex organs. The secondary sex organs include the reproductive ducts. These reproductive ducts perform the function of transporting the gametes to different and required organs. The secondary sex organs also include the reproductive glands. The reproductive glands help and aid in the process of reproduction. What do? They help in the process of reproduction. These secondary sex organs do not produce gametes or do not secrete hormones. Please pay attention. The main difference between the primary and the secondary sex organs is that the secondary sex organs do not produce gametes or hormones. Thus, the primary sex organs are the ones that produce gametes, the testis and the ovary. And the secondary sex organs in male include the ducts, the glands, and the penis delivers sperm cells. And in females, they include the uterine tubes, uterus, vagina that receives sperms and nourish the developing fetus. What do? They nourish the developing fetus and receive sperms. What is the function of female secondary sex organ? Receive sperms and nourish the developing fetus, and the males deliver the sperm cells. Clear? Now we come to the accessory sex characters. The accessory sex characters are those distinguish between the male sex and the female sex. This can be done with the help of certain external differences between them. They help indirectly in the process of reproduction. For example, the hormone estrogen that is secreted in females helps in growing of breast, pubic hair, widen the hips and also develop them. So these are the accessory sex characteristics of females. Whereas the testosterone, which is the male hormone, increases the body hair growth, breaks the voice and makes it hoarse, increases the muscle growth. These are the accessory male characters. Right? Clear? Everyone? Any doubts? Now, the male reproductive system has a very specific and a well-developed hormonal control. Let us have a look at this. The secondary sex characters in males and their growth is controlled by the hormone testosterone, as we have already seen. Where is testosterone released? It is secreted by the Leydig cells of the testes. These Leydig cells perform the function of release of testosterone, and this function of Leydig cells is regulated by the follicle stimulating hormone and the interstitial cell stimulating hormone. They are written in short as the FSH, that is the follicle stimulating hormone, and ICSH, that is interstitial cell stimulating hormone. The release of both these hormones is in turn regulated by the gonadotropin hormone, who regulates the release of FSH and ICSH, the gonadotropin hormone. See, firstly, the gonadotropin hormone is released from the hypothalamus in the base of the brain. This gonadotropic hormone activates the anterior pituitary and causes the release of luteinizing hormone and the follicle stimulating hormone. The luteinizing hormone acts on the Leydig cells of the testes and helps in the release of testosterone. The follicle stimulating hormone acts on the Sertoli cells produced and is released from the Sertoli cells and causes the process of spermatogenesis or the formation of sperm. Right? There is a hormone called inhibitin that inhibits the secretion of follicle stimulating hormone from the Sertoli cells and the gonadotropin hormone and follicle stimulating hormone together. Right? The testosterone enters into the reproductive tract and causes the reproductive changes in males. Right? Whenever testosterone reaches very high level in circulation and is produced in more quantities by the Leydig cells, its production is inhibited by the luteinizing hormone and the gonadotropin hormone inhibition. Clear, everyone? Any doubts till now? Good. Now we'll have a look at the onset of puberty in males. What is basically puberty? Puberty is nothing but the period when the reproductive organs become functional. We have seen the reproductive organs. The reproductive organs become functional during puberty, and it is seen at the age of 13 to 16 years in males. At this stage, a gland is activated at the base of the brain. This is the hypothalamus. It sends a message to the sex organs to trigger the onset of puberty. Right? The sex organs in male include testes and in females include the ovaries. The testes release testosterone and ovaries release estrogen, and these hormones start puberty. In males, testosterone released from the testicles starts puberty. Clear? Everyone? Now, the sperms, after the process of fertilization, we know that are entered into the female vaginal tract. After they enter the female vagina, they enter into an acidic environment. But the sperms are alkaline in nature. So the nature of the sperms is alkaline. As a result, they neutralize the acidity of the female vaginal tract. Right? They also stimulate the contraction of the uterine muscles of the female and help the semen to release the uterine tract after the process of ejaculation. So these are the sperm cells released after the process of ejaculation into the female vagina, and they reach the body of the uterus and finally the ovaries. Right? Let us have a look at the few disorders of male reproductive system. The first one is benign prostatic hypertrophy. It is nothing but a non-malignant enlargement of the prostatic gland. Then we have epididymitis, which means inflammation of epididymis, and finally impotence, which is a disorder in which erection cannot be achieved or maintained. So this was the brief introduction of the human reproduction with male reproductive system and organs. We will proceed with the chapter in the next session. Read well till then. Thank you.